Missouri area. And Relive found us 10 years ago, and it's because of our 4 kids having a lot of health issues that we did take a look at it, and we're so grateful that we did. Our oldest son was dealing with ADHD issues and Tourette's issues, and once we got him consistent on the product, his Tourette's were gone within 2 to 3 days.
Wow.
Yes, it was amazing. His ADHD took a little bit longer, but he is now 22 years old, serving in the Navy, and we're very proud of him. And I truly believe that he may not have been able to because they had told us, the recruiter said he would have had to sustain a 6-month period without his meds, and he has been off his meds for over 10 years because he got off of them before we got on Relive. So our other kids were dealing with bedwetting issues, migraine headaches, anger issues, to where he was talking suicide. That scared my husband and I. But he is actually 18 years old, and he also serving the U.S. Navy. And I don't know if he would still have been around because he was very, very angry. And with prayers and Relive, he is a happy kid again. And our youngest is a daughter, and she was having a lot of stomach issues. Our kids are healthy. The other thing was amazing that our kids weren't getting sick. They were staying healthy. They'd come home and say, Mom, so-and-so from school was, homesick from school or whatever, and our kids weren't doing that any longer because prior to that, my husband and I kiddingly said we must own stock in the amoxicillin company because it seemed like with the 4 kids, one kid was always on it or something. And once we got consistent on Relive, we did not have to deal with that any longer. My husband and I, we were just taking it to support our kids, thinking they were, quote unquote, healthy. But you know what? Relive proved us wrong. My husband had been dealing with Meniere's disease for many, many years. He doesn't deal with that any longer as long as he's consistent on the product. Also, he dealt with joint pains and acid reflux. Myself with receding gums, sinus issues, and incontinence, and it just and the list gets longer. I had this past 2 years ago in December, I had some issues with my knees hurting, and I just upped my product, and I don't have issues with that any longer either. So, my family and I, we will never stop continuing to take these products because of what it's done for us. So, Bill, that's our story, and I'm glad to share it.
Thank you. We appreciate it. You mentioned Ed had results with Meniere's disease. A lot of people don't know what that is. You want to explain what was going on?
Yes, I would love to. Sure. Meniere's is a type of vertigo. It's dizziness, ringing of the ears, and he has dealt with that for many years, I think in his teenage years and adult years, and sometimes it's very debilitating to where it would make him so sick that it would it'd make him throw up, that dizzy. So he doesn't get those issues anymore. So, putting good nutrition in your body, it's amazing what it can do for us.
It is. The body's a miracle. And
it is.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing tonight. Thanks so much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Bill.
Thank you. Well, next we're going to head over to Arizona, and what a pleasure for me to get to introduce you to Terry Lamb. Terry has a very powerful story. It's one that I've certainly, it's gripped my heart a couple times when she shared it. And Terry, we'd just love you to come on and share some of what's happened for you.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on your call this evening. My name is Terry Lamb. I'm from Gilbert, Arizona. And this summer will be 16 years that my family has been taking the Relive products. When they came to us, we were dealing with a lot of health issues. My family has a strong family history of autoimmune issues. I had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. My rheumatologist had told me I was one of the worst cases he'd ever seen. I was watching my daughter follow in my footsteps. And my mother was dealing with lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, autoimmune anemia, and all kinds of complications from that. I'd also been diagnosed with something called trigeminal neuralgia, which is also known as the suicide disease because of the high rate of suicide due to the nerve pain that you deal with. It's nerve pain in the face. And then I had bad osteoarthritis, and I was 42 when I got on my Relive products. My husband, Todd, had been dealing with a progressive migraine disorder since infancy. He had abdominal migraines as a child, and as he got older, they progressed to the point where he was having grand mal seizures with the migraines. He was having heart, liver, and kidney issues due to all the medications he was on for the seizures. And we had just been told by one of his doctors to go pick out his casket, that there was nothing more the medical profession could do for him. And 2 weeks later, we were introduced to Relive, and as I was saying no, he said yes. He's a farmer. He has a dairy farm and crop farm, and so he works with cattle and plant nutritionists all the time, and he knew what a difference nutrition could make. And I remember him saying, the quality of my life is so poor today, I'll try anything. And he asked his parents and I to commit to taking these products for 6 months with him. And he said, we take better care of the nutrition levels of our cows on the dairy and our plants on the farm than we do our own family. We're buying vitamins at the grocery store, and I'm flying a nutritionist in from California every month to help me with our cows' nutrition, and I have another one that comes in from Phoenix every week. He said, this just makes a lot of sense to me. So we bought a lot of product, and we started taking it. And we started to watch our family change. Within a week, Todd was getting energy. Within a month, he didn't look like the same person. His coloring had gone from gray and ashen to a normal, healthy coloring for a farmer in Arizona. Within 4 months, that same doctor that had told us to go pick out his casket, his mouth literally dropped open when we walked in his office. And he told Todd, he said, what have you done? You look like a changed man. And Todd showed him the can of Relive product, and he said, I don't believe nutrition can make this big a difference, but I can't deny what's happening. So let's start weaning you off that medication that's controlling the anxiety part of your disorder. Took a couple of years to wean him off that product, but slowly but surely, Todd just got better and better. By the time that went by, I think it was, Todd's been seizure-free 10 years, so it was about 6 years he'd been on product when he became seizure-free. He rarely ever has a migraine, and he used to live with one every single day of his life. His cholesterol dropped over 200 points, triglycerides over 500 points. His liver function went to normal within the first 3 years of being on Relive. And Relive literally gave him his life back. Right along with him, I got energy. My muscle and joint pain started to improve. By the end of a year, I figured I was about 80% symptom-free, 80-85%, and I couldn't believe it because I'd been dealing with fibromyalgia since I was 17. So Todd and I were spending, a fortune on medications, and within the first 2 years of being on Relive, we went down to spending $40 a month for one of his medications. Our average medical expenses were about $25,000 to $30,000 a year. That's out-of-pocket expenses for our, medical stuff. And within the first few years of Relive, that went down to $2,000 to $3,000 a year. So Relive has really benefited us financially too. Right along with me, my daughter got great results. She was 19 when we got her on the product. She was ready to quit college. The fibromyalgia was so severe she could hardly function. And she was able to continue in college, and she switched her business major to a nutrition major. She said, Mom, I got to know more because of what's happening in our family. And so right along with us, my mom got great results. She got life-saving results with her lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, mostly with her the autoimmune blood disorder that she had. She went from being chronically anemic to not needing, medications for anemia. She had been told by her doctors that she was going to have the rest of her colon removed because she had so many problems with diverticulitis. And within the first year of being on Relive, when she had her next colonoscopy, her gastroenterologist told her that if he had not been her doctor for 10 years, he would not believe how healthy her colon and stomach was. He said that the surgery that she had had 8 years prior to Relive that formed a tremendous amount of scar tissue, all of that scar tissue was gone, and they couldn't even tell where they had resected her colon 8 years prior. He said, whatever you're doing, don't quit doing what you're doing. And so Relive has blessed our family, and that's the story. So we'll always be taking these products.
My goodness. Powerful story, Terry. What a wonderful, wonderful experience you guys have had. And we so appreciate you coming on and sharing some of what's happened for you all. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome, Bill.
Well, now we head over to Chicago, Illinois. Edith Pfeiffer, we would love you to come on and share some of what's happened for you.
Okay. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for inviting me to the call. Hello, everyone. I'm Edith Pfeiffer from Chicago. I'm a retired school administrator. And several years ago, I was working and happy, but wanting to maintain my health. I was exercising 3 days a week, watching my diet, and taking a handful of vitamins every day. I wanted to stay healthy so that at retirement time, I'd be able to be that grandmother that would be working with my grandchildren and taking them on trips and baking cookies and telling stories. That hadn't happened yet, but I was holding out that it would. But coming home from work one evening, before I retired, I had a stroke in my car. And that was the first of 5 strokes I'd have over a 2-year period of time. At the end of the 5th stroke, I wasn't in very good shape, and my husband was very concerned because after 5 strokes and being in a nursing facility and all of that, I didn't seem to be getting any better. And so the doctor told him that they had done all they could do with medication and therapy, and they just didn't see that I would be returning to a normal way of living. There was nothing else to be done. It was about that time that we were blessed to find my husband's good friend who was a distributor for Relive International. And she told him, I have something that I know will help her. I can't say how much it'll do, but I know that it will take her from where she is to a better place. And so I started the products right away. And I know that we all know on the line that the only difference in whether people get results or not is just the time frame. Some people I've found feel much better with that first shake. And then there are others that take a little bit longer. Well, my shake took 10 days. And at the end of those 10 days, a headache that I had had for 3 years was no longer an issue. My doctor had given me high-potency pain medication for the headaches, but nothing happened. And he told my husband, there's some pain that cannot be addressed with medication. And so she probably will have headaches the rest of her life. She'll just have to learn to live with them. Well, that wasn't so with Relive. As we move forward, within 3 to 4 months after that, the brain fog that I had after the strokes started to dissipate. I had brain fogs that would not allow me to understand the spoken word or the written word. That meant that I was not able to communicate with people verbally because I could hear the words that they said to me, but they had no meaning. Once they got up to my brain, the words couldn't be unscrambled. And the reading, which was a joy of mine, I had a passion for reading and doing research and all of that. I have advanced degrees in education. Found I could no longer read after the strokes. But within that time period, the brain fog started to dissipate. And I started just pushing myself to read. I got children's books, and I tried to make those words come alive as I started to read again. And I have regained that ability, and I'm so grateful for that. Well, by the time I had been on these products for 1 year, I had moved from using a walker to using a cane to walking totally without assistance and being able to communicate with friends and relatives the way I used to. I got my life back, and oh, what a joy. Oh my goodness, I just couldn't believe it. I was able to begin going back out to the community activities that I was involved in and different meetings and all. And everyone wanted to know, what did you do? How did you recover from 5 strokes? And at that point, I couldn't stop talking about Relive and what great things had happened for me. And they all wanted to know how they could become involved. So James and I came in at the highest profit margin and started doing business with our friends, our relatives, and those we cared about. And it was so great. We had help from our sponsors and a system that was working for Relive, and all of these things made a difference in our lives. But about that time, something happened that I had just wished and dreamed for so long, and that was my grandchildren started to be born. I was so healthy that by the time my first grandchild was born, I was able to be in the delivery room with her, which was a dream that I just didn't know would ever come true. When the grandchildren were old enough and moms went back to work, James and I kept the babies. And so we had sometimes 4 babies at the house at one time. And we loved what we did. The babies really had no sick visits from the time they were about 3 months to 3 years, because we gave them Relive products, and they were able to use them very, very readily with their bodies. Wanted to do the business and continue, and Relive allowed us to do it part-time so that we were able to keep the children during the day, and in the evening and on the weekends we would do our Relive. We did it part-time, 6 to 12 hours a week. But even at that, our highest month highest in 1 month income was $2,300. And it was great for us to add on to the different things we were doing for the children and all. We love what we do with Relive. Our grandchildren now are all in school full-time, so we don't have the responsibility of day-to-day care for them. And so we're going back to put more time into our Relive business. We love what we do, and I know that we'll be doing this forever.
Absolutely. It's a real joy to be able to reach out and be part of making a difference in people's lives. And
oh, yes.
Edith, thank you for coming on and sharing. We certainly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Bill, for asking.
Thank you. Well, let me just check one more time to see if Rebecca and Joe Carrier were able to make it in. Guys, if you're in, we'd love you to share. Okay, I haven't heard them check in, so we'll catch up with them on another occasion. Wow, I have a real treat for you tonight. It's a real pleasure for us to have with us tonight Dr. Lana Petrunen. And Lana is an ambassador with Relive. She's not only had some good results in herself and in her family and in her practice, and we're going to learn about some of that tonight, but she's reached out and helped a lot of people, and it's certainly a real pleasure. So, Lana, we'd love you to come on and share.
Oh, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for inviting me to share our Relive story. I am retired now, medical and naturopathic doctor, had a practice and worked in many multiple hospitals, recovery rooms, and ICUs for many years. And was approached with Relive actually 15 years ago because, I heard it from one of my patients who I couldn't help with migraines, but I really didn't take it seriously at the time. But then when I was introduced time, I kind of paid a little more attention, thanks God, and we were able to stop our crazy daily routine in the office and really look at the information I was offered, and I was invited for a presentation. So eventually it took probably 3 or 4 months for me to make it, but I did, and I decided to give it a shot. I just decided when I saw stories, and you heard today on the call, I mean, after you hear results like this, you really feel, okay, let me try it and see what's going to happen. So at the time, prior to relief, my husband has had a very high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heartburns all the time, headaches, all this corporate package, I call it. He was in a high position in one of the IT companies at the time. Had horrible gum disease, had the millions of problems with that, and his left knee was bone to bone, so he required knee replacement in the nearest future. So in the 7 months on this product, he had complete restoration of knee cartilage, proven by scan and multiple tomographic x-rays. His headache, blood pressure, cholesterol, heartburns, he pretty much got off all medications for this. And the gum disease was a history now. I mean, since then, he had multiple dental exams, and he never needed any surgeries or anything on the gums. So myself, I had varicose veins and a very bad sinus. All my friends, nose and throat doctors tried different techniques, different equipment, I mean, lasers, you name it. I mean, everything known to modern medicine, and I never could get rid of the sinus anyway. So with being on the product for about 7-8 months, I saw dramatic improvement in varicose veins. They stopped getting swollen. My leg became normal size. All these clots and scars slowly went away, became normal color. Skin became normal color. I started wearing skirts. You know, before I was always in pants and the heels. And sinus was better in about 3-4 months' time. And I agree with previous people who were talking that it doesn't work really immediately overnight. But it does take a couple of months to actually see dramatic improvement. So in 6-7 months, me and my husband were like full of energy, very excited about the product, really proven effectiveness. But it wasn't enough for me to bring it to the office. So I still wanted to get all information about double-blind clinical studies and everything company could provide me with. So I decided to do my own clinical studies. So we got consent from 13 patients of mine, and we put them on a product. And in 4.5 months' time frame, we had 93% success rate. And that was the moment I finally decided, okay, let's go and look at this business opportunity. Maybe we can develop business out of it. So we finally make the presentation, and I went to this Chicago conference. You know, it's really completely changed my attitude toward the company, toward the business itself. Because I was a physician, you know, I work 11 hours, 6 days a week. I really never thought about having any other businesses on the side or doing anything else. I just, you know, never really crossed my mind. The residual income in particular wasn't on the table at all. So when we look at the compensation plan, and my husband is more in investments and all this, so we decided to give it a shot. And our goal was to commit for 2 years and see if we become ambassadors and, you know, start producing significant income. Then we will continue. And with the help of my upline and lots of people who actually helped me and trained me. And then we were able to gain a lot of business partners from right now 12 countries. My sister joined us in the business from Toronto. Then we found a wonderful group of people in California. So this business took us to London, to Guam, to Paris. I mean, we've been many places doing these presentations, which I, you know, being a doctor and sitting in an office, never even thought that it can really be something that I will do. And for sure, it was a great thing to develop the business. So now it's 15 years down the road. We do have a very big group of people which were impacted by this product, health-wise and financially. And it's a really blessing, you know. At the time, you don't understand it, but with a while, after 10 years doing relief and being on the product, it was doing business kind of, you know, part-time. It's allow us to completely retire in age of 54. So now it's been almost 6 years ago, 5.5. And we're still helping people. I do all this global business and calls to Europe and to different other countries. We developed a huge Russian-speaking community, which we do once a month for last 5 years, training calls and conference calls. And people call, you wouldn't believe, from Korea, from Germany, Austria. We found fantastic business partners, very, bright, intelligent people who developed much bigger businesses than I am. But altogether, we think a whole bunch of people, being in the office, I probably would help, between 20 to 30 people a day. But since we were able to get business partners and teach and train them to do the same, now we have people all over the world who've been impacted by this product, by its effectiveness, and by ability to improve your family financial situation, which is what's great for us. I mean, my kids study abroad. They both have master's degrees, and thanks to Relief, we really didn't have to put it on their credit cards or take a loan for this. We were able to provide it for them. And now for sure I have grandkids, and lucky me, I can be in delivery room, and I can, spend 3-4 months, help them and their parents to recover after delivery, and then I come for school holidays and stay with the kids, with the grandkids, so my kids don't have to use their vacation days. So we're very happy. Relief, it was really, really blessing, and we're trying to share it with other people because it does help us tremendously.
Well, that's wonderful. It's certainly a powerful testimony on a lot of different levels. Someone who's listening to this and, for the first time, trying to get a handle on how on earth can this product do all these things. So, Lana, how can Relive do so many different wonderful things? Now since I retired, I actually start spending more and more time trying to figure it out. I read all work of Dr. Kalogris. I read everything possible to find out the answer to this question. But really, looking at the latest scientific data and effectiveness of Relief, I think that it does change your stem cells and DNA structure. It allows to replicate healthy cells. And altogether, we see dramatic, improvement with the lab results and the clinical results with the level of blood cells, form, shape. You see the new cells is completely healthy. People who've been having different kind of blood disorders, cancers of the blood. It's amazing. In 3-4 months, it's completely changes the clinical data. So immune system is it's improving circulation. It regulates all your hormones. It's just it creates some kind of very top management in a body when it's really start recreating healthy cells. Right. And it just works on the cellular level, definitely. And as we all know, the Slunarich product recently developed, it does regulate production of healthy cells because it regulates genetic material. And results are absolutely stunning and amazing, especially with people who are hopeless, with the cancers, with the very debilitating chronic conditions. So, yeah, if I see somebody or I hear somebody talking about having Crohn's disease or having child with autism, whatever, I never, I'll find a way to ask them, did they try anything else besides the traditional pharmaceutical route? And if they say, no, I'm looking for something, then I will definitely tell them that there is something you can try. And, it's not a difficult thing to do. Being a doctor, you think, okay, my God, you have to learn how to do it. This is not difficult. You don't have to go to, attorney school or medical school to do it. You can train anybody within 2-3 months. They can be fluent because the only thing you really need to listen to people, to their concerns, and just ask the question, are they looking for solution? And if they are, then, we have a system, we have a whole bunch of calls, and I absolutely, so thankful for you, Bill and Patty, doing these calls, because many of my patients, friends, family, dramatically benefited from these calls, because when they hear from somebody, not a family member, not a friend, not a doctor, but just a completely third party, it really, really makes them believe that they can get better. And I am so thankful, you guys, years after years doing those calls. Thank you. Well, when I think about you, when you first looked at Relive, you were a doctor, a medical doctor. You'd been previously a naturopathic doctor. I mean, your practice, you had to be a little timid about putting your patients on the product. Now, you said you did your own clinical study, and I think you said you had 10 patients, or 10 of your patients
13.
on the product?
13.
13. So how did you go about that? What did you do on that study with your own clients, your own patients?
Oh, I got results, but, you have your practice, you have your certain, protocols and everything you follow, and you really don't want to change it, especially like at the time I had this for 17 years, probably, or 18 years of practice. I really didn't want to introduce something which going to completely, change everything I do, number one. Number two, Aurora knows. Aurora Paredes and Raul, they helped me tremendously. I was the first one to tell them, hey, people don't come for follow-up appointments anymore. You're going to completely make me unemployed. And I'm going to stay in the corner,
People healthy.
So we had a, serious conversation with them. I said, okay, guys, you're going to destroy my practice. That's what's going to happen. And, it took me a while to really see the concept of building a business which brings you royalties and residual income, because in a doctor's office you basically daily operation is reimbursement and people come back and appointments and all this. That's how doctors making money, because people sick and they coming. So you never really see behind this any possibilities of making any substantial income by not working or by not seeing patients. So that was a real kind of tough time for me, and I actually even withdraw from the business. Yeah, and I even, Aurora knows, I even withdraw for 3-4 months, kind of thinking, my God, what's going to happen? But, there's always, relief is something which leading you in the right direction. You just need to stick to it, and it's pivot toward it. And I was introduced to, all this Dr. Hastings and other doctors in the company, and talked to many of them, and really kind of started to see bigger picture of this, not only by, application to this individual patient, but to see a little more how it can turn around to be help for thousands of people. It's kind of hard initially because, medical schools do not prepare you for anything like this. You pretty much have no retirement package, so you work. You're trying to, to provide as much time for the patient as you can, and you really never even think that they can get well completely and go. Never, nobody, generally speaking, gets well and never comes back. So, for me, with relief, when people really start getting results and getting rid of migraines and getting rid of psoriasis and arthritis and diabetes and serious issues, it was like, okay. And you cannot tell any of your colleagues because they think you're crazy. So it was a tough time, but we really committed to these 2 years, and it was hard because I had full-time job, my husband had full-time job. We tried to do all conferences and everything just to build our own belief in the product and in the company. And I did this clinical study. Basically, it was a waste of time, but now looking back. But for me, at the time, it was important because I wanted to bring something to the office which I absolutely sure, and because my patients trust me, so I cannot betray their trust. I just need to.
So you did a baseline blood work with everybody?
Yeah, we did multiple testing, actually. We did blood work, we did urine, we did all biological fluids. We did saliva, we did whole bunch of biochemical and electrical testing. It was a quite, a complex really testing before and after. But, I was very impressed with results we saw. And that's what made me really, effectiveness of the product, that's really the key was for me. I felt comfortable, I felt I can trust the company. I went for the conference, I met all these people who was at the head of the company, their credibility, they're down to earth, you can ask questions, if they don't know, they will get back to you. And it's important, it's important in the business when people do what they say. And I kind of build respect and, from this point, I was absolutely sure that I have a good intention. I want to help them, and I do something right toward my patients by introducing them to this product. It's always been an option. Many people ask about anything natural. I don't see any results. Can I do something else? If you let them,
Lana, when you think about the pharmaceutical companies, I mean, they have no financial incentive to cure anyone, or they're out of business.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they rule the world.
Yeah, they're going to give you some kind of medicine, drug that is going to deal with a symptom. And if they're lucky, you'll get a side effect and maybe need another one. So
I wish
they have nothing to sell. So, yeah.
And I will tell you now, since we impacting so many people in so many countries, I find that in the United States and Canada, people more rely on pharmaceuticals than in other countries. So there are places where people much more open to natural approach, But unfortunately, it's a huge, huge fight with the pharmaceuticals. I mean, and it's very hard to win because behind them, lots of politics, lots of money, and for sure, companies like Relief, they're trying to change it, but it's very difficult. It's Bible says it's your temple, it's your body, so you're the one who needs to decide, not a pharmaceutical company, really. But not too many people want to take responsibility for their own health.
Yeah, we've become, in general, as a nation, we've become dependent on doctors, and so many of the people just hang on whatever the doctor says, and obviously there's a lot of good that's happening, but there's some wonderful things being left here that with nutrition that can change people's lives.